Ladies and gentlemen, this video is being recorded in August of 2025, and right now we're in a fascinating time in the chess world. We've got the youngest ever reigning world champion, that's Gukesh, but we also have the country of India as a whole totally dominating chess in a way that we've really never seen before. And one of those players in particular is named Pragg Ramesh Babu, and Pragg, after the game I'm going to show you in this video, is up to number 3 in the entire world. The world rankings are Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, and Pragg. Pragg is on a mission in 2025. He previously played in the Candidates Tournament. That tournament was won by Gukesh, who then went on to challenge for the World Championship and obviously win it. We could be looking at a future where Pragg and Gukesh play an All-India World Championship the way that this is going on. And in this video, Pragg beat Gukesh in a literal perfect game of chess. And the craziest thing about this game is, if I removed the name tags and showed you just a game where white is anonymous and black is Gukesh, you would think white is Magnus Carlsen or Stockfish or Magnus Carlsen using Stockfish. Like, this was an unbelievable game. And what this game shows is that as the world champion, you always have a target on your back or front or wherever. Like, they are out to get Gukesh, and he's gonna have quite a title reign. All right, he's really gonna be, you kind of went from being the hunter to the hunted. So we're in Singfield Cup in St. Louis, in the United States. Pragg opens with the move d4. Gukesh plays knight to f6. We have a very normal opening. Nowadays, everybody is putting this pawn forward to support the center and open up the bishop so that you can play the Nimzo Indian defense, one of the most popular openings in chess. Doesn't particularly matter. White chooses e3. This is called the Rubinstein system, named after Akiba Rubinstein. Again, completely meaningless for you. Maybe at your level, there are still scholars made happening. Don't worry about it. Where this game gets interesting for me is right here, okay? So Gukesh's bishop is under attack. Most people here, they just take the knight. And then oftentimes what you do is then you attack the center with c5. Gukesh plays in a very interesting way. He takes this pawn first, okay? And then Pragg takes back. And then instead of taking, the bishop, the knight with the bishop, he moves the bishop all the way back to e7. Now look at the time. Why has Gukesh spent 20 minutes in the opening? What could he be thinking about? I mean, these are easy moves, right? So where did he spend his time? I think he spent his time, first of all, he castled in this position, which I suppose that, this move confused him a little bit. Not that he doesn't know what to do, but he has to think about what Pragg has prepared for him. And maybe this is not a move that Pragg plays all that often. But what's interesting about this position is that the opening shifts. It does what's called a transposition. It's like taking two different roads but ending in the same destination. It's almost like they played a Queen's Gambit to straight up begin the game, and then white captured, and we got, knight c3, knight f6, e3, e6, bishop c4, bishop e7, something along these lines. With the move a3, castles, and then knight f3. This is kind of what we have. I know it looks ridiculous, but watch, I'm going to click into the game. You see that? No, you didn't? It's because it's the same thing. They took a different path, and now Gukesh plays this move c5, and then on the very next move, he plays a6. So we have a Queen's Gambit accepted position. Now, from this point forward, Gukesh makes a couple of inaccuracies, and Pragg literally plays a perfect game of chess. So in every chess game, you depart the opening stage, meaning the stuff that you know in advance, that you've memorized, or that you just know the ideas of, and you don't really have to think. Look at Pragg's time. He hasn't thought at all. Pragg takes on c5, clearly still, in his preparation. And the best move for black here is to take this pawn. You don't want to take this queen, because then white will take with the rook and replace the control of this file. Clearly, Gukesh, understands that, and he still makes this trade. He's totally happy to do that. He probably just thought that Pragg would move here, and then there would be no queen trade, and so he does this and this. Now, this is a very, very marginal advantage for white compared to the previous position, but Pragg just plays breathtaking chess. So first of all, he plays bishop to e2 after a few minutes of thought. To explain this move to anybody watching this video is difficult. This move is nonsensical for 99.99% of chess players. Like, what? We are taught when we develop our pieces, we keep them there. It's not even threatened. And even if it's like, you go bishop here or in the corner, why would you go here? Well, after the opening, this bishop is clearly eating rocks. It's not doing anything useful. So you move the bishop to e2. And the idea of this move is to actually put it here, not by capturing your own knight, which is illegal. But by the way, that would be a really cool rule if it wasn't illegal. And then from this square, it would have a lot more scope. And this knight will transfer to the c4 square very often. So the knight will go there, and we see the position, right? It's got a lot of future access to certain squares because black puts so many pawns on light squares. Fun fact, if you have 5 out of 6 pawns on light squares, it means your light squares are rock solid, but your dark squares could be vulnerable. You see? Right? Okay, so bishop to e2, Gukesh plays knight c6, normal move. And now, you see how Gukesh didn't have time to retreat his bishop? Now we use it as a piñata. Otherwise, the position is almost symmetrical, right? It's like almost symmetrical. Now we go b4. So now the bishop has a difficult decision. Do we go back to a7 where we end up putting pressure on this diagonal? Or do we go back to e7 for a second time? Can you imagine you play bishop to b4, bishop to e7, bishop takes pawn on c5, and then bishop back to e7 again? Is that normal? That doesn't feel normal. Gukesh certainly doesn't think so, and he plays bishop to a7. Look at the time spent. 16 minutes, right? That's a big decision. And the funny thing is, it's the wrong decision. Previously, the position was 0.2, 0.3. That shows who has the advantage. It triples. It goes up about, 2.5x, right? It goes from 0.2, 0.3 to 0.5, 0.6 approximately. And the reason is this bishop is not going to be as useful as this bishop if this bishop repositions to this square. So now the move bishop b2. Again, the position is symmetrical. Both guys have traded D and C pawns. There are no queens on the board, okay? So you look at this. This is not the most fascinating stuff. There's no queens being sacrificed. There's no, crazy attacks. There's no ripping open of the king or whatever, pushing pawns. Like, this is not chess from the 1950s and Mikhail Tal is playing. This is modern day chess. Gukesh plays rook d8. Gukesh is a half a step behind Pragg. If he got his bishop out and got his rooks in the game, you trade all the pieces, and at the end of the day, you're looking in the mirror. Okay, you have the exact same position, and it would be a draw. So how does Pragg make progress here? That was not intentional. Pretty sure I've done that one before, but I can't remember. Anyway, I'm so funny. Oh my goodness, I'm hilarious. Okay, knight to e5. He makes progress like this. It's a great move. Knight e5 works for 2 reasons. Number 1, the knight needs to guard the rook, so it can't take. But number 2, you can't even take the rook first, because if you take the rook first, and then you take the knight, you're back rank checkmated. That's the problem of this bishop, the curse of the bishop on the c8 square. Knight e5 is an excellent move, and on top of knight e5, remember our idea was to go here, your idea is to take on c6, damaging the pawn structure and ruining the black position completely and simply winning the game. So now Gukesh has to play bishop d7. This is a very big moment in this game. This is, and I cannot stress this enough, this move is a no-brainer for white. Even though that's the bishop's first move, it took 15 moves to even wake up from the, in the game, you have to take the bishop. Why do you have to take the bishop? Knight is better than a bishop, more often than not. But really, more importantly, you continue the momentum into black's position. Black is going to have to take steps backwards now. You're going to have to make some trades, and in that time, I'm going to jump my next knight into your position, and my bishop into your position, and my next rook into your position. So Pragg plays knight takes d7. He spends a few minutes on this move, and now black again has a choice. Does he trade the rook, or does he take with the knight and keep the rook on the board? There's no easy answers. If you trade the rook, white goes here, here. Now the knight is a target. I immediately play knight to e4. I'm ready for this. I'm ready for the pawn on b7. It's amazing how in a position of symmetry, micro advantages and the dynamics between the pieces, comparing and contrasting the quality of the pieces is really fascinating. Like, this bishop is a monster. This bishop stares at nothing. This bishop is going to come over here, right? And this rook is going to be more active. It has, targets, and you have empty squares to infiltrate on. This is really the hot spot of the position, right? Gukesh opts to not trade the rook. He doesn't trade the rook. Pragg continues with a very similar plan, knight to e4. It's only one-way traffic. The problem is for Gukesh. Gukesh he's a very good fighter. He's very good at creating chances out of nothing. But there's literally no way to create a chance here. Like, the only way to do anything here with black is to hope that your opponent takes a slightly wrong turn. Not going to happen, because if you push these pawns, they're going to become weak. The pieces behind them are weak. That square is a money square. Black goes knight to b6. That move has pros and cons. The pro is knight to b6 kind of stops knight here. Why? Because the knight jumps out to the edge of the board, and suddenly the bishop's like, what the? I'm kind of claustrophobic. I can't make a move. You come back, suddenly you're getting forked. Now you're losing. While this move is trying to go knight a4, unfortunately, it blocks the bishop, and Pragg plays knight c5. Knight a4 has been thwarted, and b7 is just a juicy pawn, and a6 is a juicy pawn, and then the knight on c6 and this diagonal is juicy as well. And by the way, it took Gukesh 20 minutes to play that move. He's down to 11:49 on the clock. Pragg has played a perfect game. Knight c5. Gukesh plays rook b8. He's defending. Now, that rook guards the pawn, and it also guards the rook. So what do? Self-explanatory. We take the rook. The rook can't take, because then I would go knight b7, bishop a6, etc. And you don't have anything like this. None of this works, right? On top of that, because I have bishop f3, on top of that, in this position, I wouldn't even rush. I would play bishop to f. Like, I don't have to do anything. The whole left side of the board is collapsing because black's pieces are all stuck behind each other. So Gukesh goes here. He's still defending himself. But this move, every move has a consequence. It's unbelievable. Every move in black's position has a consequence. This move comes back and defends the pawn. What does it do, though? It used to guard e5. So Pragg just goes bishop to e5. Very straightforward move. Targeting the rook. Rook's got to choose now. Where's it going to go? You would love to go to c8, but then I win the pawn on b7 with bishop a6 tricks. So you go rook a8. I mean, that is just upsetting. Now, how does Pragg continue to improve his position? Dare I say, how does Pragg continue to make progress? You don't want the black knight to move, right? The black knight is trying to always enter the game and reactivate the bishop. You can control every move of this knight. e4. You got a bishop, knight, everybody's on a good square. e4 is such a nasty little move. You just bip. You just boop the pawn in the middle of the board, one square. Bip. Black can't move. Black can't move the bishop. Black can't move the knight. Black can't do anything. He's trying. He goes bishop b8. Logical move, trying to remove this bishop. When you have your opponent under pressure, you generally don't want to trade pieces. You want to trade pieces if you're up material, usually. You want to trade pieces if sometimes you're under attack. We're not up material. We cannot compare the quality of these two bishops. This bishop is soul searching, man. That bishop went to b4, e7, c5, a7, b8. That bishop is changing careers at 35. He's looking for something. Looking for something to do. And maybe he'll find it, but we don't know. That's the beautiful story of the bishop. And this bishop is thriving. He's eating good, sleeping good, drinking enough water. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he does affirmations if that works for them. I don't know. But this bishop is thriving. That bishop is still soul searching. It's going to continue to soul search, by the way. Gukesh's other knight retreats. I mean, folks, let me tell you something. If you are playing a chess game and on the 22nd move, you got 4 pieces lined up like this and 4 minutes on the clock, something went wrong. It's not supposed to be like that. You notice how white's pieces are sort of active, like he hasn't moved the rook yet. That's going to change. It's going to change right now. Rook d1. Every move threatens something. The move, bishop to b8, is a good move, but it blocks the rook. Now black's rook is going to be a few moves away from the game. Now bishop d4 immediately, by the way. The bad move, the bad consequences of bishop to b8, the knight is no longer protected, so you target the knight, you're threatening to take a pawn, so the knight gets out of the way. What did that move do? It got out of the way. But as a consequence of these two moves, all of the pieces are stuck on the 8th rank. And now you play rook d1, and you set up a direct attack on the knight. You're threatening bishop takes pawn. You're threatening all sorts of stuff. Gukesh plays bishop d6. All right, this is a good move. It stops this threat. It's defended by the knight. That pawn is defending like this. What does Pragg do? Immediately plays bishop to e5. Now this bishop cannot take the bishop for free, cannot take the knight, because that would be game over. So the bishop has to go backwards. But finally, comes bishop c7. And as good of a defense as you've had, this almost feels like a chess grappling match. Anybody watch Hamzat? DDP? Any UFC fans? It's a grappling match. You are attacking and poking at different things. And finally, something works. And you are, the person's not scrambling to their feet. They're not doing that. And now you have tied yourself down like this, and you're not going to be able to defend yourself. The rook can also always come into d7. So we have knight to c6, and Pragg just takes the pawn. Now black has all of the problems that he's had for the entire game. But on top of that, he's a pawn down. So you've actually lost a pawn, and you have all the same problems. And you have a really weak second pawn. Gukesh plays g5. There's not much you can do. You got to go for something. We get off the back rank. Now we don't have any back rank problems. What does white do? Infiltrating with the rook is good. The computer also wants to start bringing the king. King f1 is a mysterious move. I don't understand it. Pragg goes bishop f1. Okay. I don't understand that move either. Gukesh plays g4. Down to 49 seconds on the clock. Now Pragg has to convert this position. And Gukesh is one of the trickiest guys in the world to defeat. He's got a very ferocious fighting spirit. Why Pragg went here? He wanted to avoid the knight coming in with an attack on his bishop. He wanted to set up rook c1. So he plays rook c1 attacking the knight. And now if the knight goes to the middle, it's not attacking a bishop anymore. And the bishop does as good of a job on the f1 square as it was doing on the e2 square. The knight goes to d4. And now Pragg's like, okay, I think I'm just winning. I'm going to convert this pawn majority. Because what's going to happen is the pawns are going to start moving. And the closer they get to promotion, higher the chance that Gukesh has to give up one of his pieces. So he plays a4. Very nice move. This pawn is tactically protected. What does that mean? It means if you take it, I just fork you. And by the way, the bishop's going to have to go once again back to e7. This is so depressing, really. I mean, my goodness. Right? a4. Gukesh doesn't know what to do. He plays f6. Pragg goes here. Like, the point of f6 is that if white just advanced, after bishop takes and rook c4, there are now little tricks like knight going to b5, right? So you've always got protection. But more than anything else, the other idea of the move pawn to f6 is that it blocked this bishop's diagonal. So bishop e5 would always sort of be there. And you got e5, you want to anchor in the knight. Yeah, he just plays e5. He just breaks all of it up. This is such a well-timed move. Earlier in the game, Pragg played e4 to stop this knight from getting back into the game. The move e5 stops this knight from getting back into the game just from a different freaking square. The knight on b6 was controlled by the pawn on e4. The knight on c8 is controlled by the pawn on e5. So is this king. Pawn takes, bishop takes, attacks the knight. Rook is going to get in. Gukesh goes here. Knight a7. He tries to get the knight out that way. Now we use this pawn, which blocked the position earlier. We try to play bishop to d6. You can't take the bishop. You can't take the bishop. If you take the bishop, I'm 2 squares from queening. I win the game, and I control that square, so it's over. So you can't do that. Bishop d6, good knight c6, defending your bishop. Now, we could do this. We could do that. Or we could remove the defender of the knight, of the bishop, which is the knight, by playing b5, which is a move that is defended by the pawn on a4, and is defended by the bishop we move to f1 from the e2 square, avoiding the knight coming to d4. Like, it's unbelievable how well oiled the machine is. Everything works. b5. Gukesh plays pawn takes, we have pawn takes. Now, the only thing that Pragg could do here is lose on time, right? Or blunder because he gets low on time. So the knight is guarding the bishop. You got to go here. But now I succeed in crashing through my pawn. This pawn was the freaking hero of this game. Now it's 2 squares from queening. The knight is hanging. I think Gukesh went knight to e5 here. How do you get the pawn through? How do you get it more support? Rook d1. This is defended by the bishop. The knight is hanging, just purely hanging. You have to move it. Or you go rook to b8, counterattacking. Now, if white took the knight and you took, look how much advantage is gone. That's crazy. A bunch of the advantage is gone. You're still winning, but it's going to take a lot of time now. Pragg just goes here. Knight c5. And Gukesh resigned. He resigned in this position. Why? His knight is hanging. If he moves it off to the side, I just promote the pawn. You got to sacrifice something for it. You're not going to survive that position. You guys should never resign here. As long as you have any pieces on the board, you might still win. Even a lone king. And if after knight c5 you take on b5, then I just do this. I play d7. Knight takes. I win the game. But like I said, you can always blunder a back rank checkmate. So like I said, for you guys, it's never too late to go completely insane. Yeah, knight c5. and the game is over. Pragg won this game at 100% accuracy. Now, if you plug this into Stockfish, there is like one moment it's like, well, actually. So, but he, as a human being, on a human level, he literally played a perfect game against the champion of the world. And that should be celebrated, in my opinion. This was an amazing game. Gukesh made like a couple of inaccuracies. If I showed you this game and said Magnus played white, you'd be like, wow, amazing. Just an incredible game. Of course, typical positional style. Every move, perfectly coordinated. The pressure that we put, 22 moves into the game, all the black pieces on the back rank. Amazing game, incredibly well-deserved, and we will see how the year progresses. We'll see, in a recent interview, I believe, Vishwanathan Anand, 5-time world champion, legend of Indian chess, said that the strongest player right now is Pragg. Not Erigaisi and not Gukesh. I think that's what he said. I saw a clip, and if that clip was out of context, then I got tricked by a podcast clip. So, very exciting times. Congrats to Pragg, current world number 3. And that's all I have for you today. Get out of here.